Righty there.
Welcome back to Banging the Can, the Houston sports show that does not apologize for championship rings and tings, presented by Bolen Media. I am your host, Ross Bolen, and I am so incredibly freaking bored with sports right now. I'm watching women's college basketball and shit, which, no offense to women's college basketball, is simply not my bag, baby. This time of year absolutely stinks when we're relying on the NBA to keep us occupied. MLB opening day cannot get here soon enough. Speaking of which, for all the F1 fans out there, the 2024 F1 season began in Bahrain this past weekend with a shocking result in the form of a Max Verstappen win. If you're an F1 fan, check out Bolen Media's F1 show, Formula Bone, available wherever you get Banging the Can, at Formula Bone on social media, and youtube.com/at Formula Bone. All right, let's talk Houston sports. What the fuck is going on? I feel like I'm beating a dead horse talking Rockets. They opened March with a big win over the Phoenix Suns after an extremely tough-to-watch February where they won 3 games and lost 9. 3-9 in February? Yeesh. So through 60 games, the Rockets are 26-34. 6 games back of the 10-seed Lakers. Of course, the 7 through 10 seed make the play-in tournament, so we are 6 games back of the play-in effectively. Probably not going to make the play-in this season if we're judging from the 60 games we have seen so far. As predicted, the Rockets' hotter-than-expected start to the season was not sustainable. And as predicted, the Rockets were a shit show while Fred VanVleet was out with an adductor strain. Speaking of injuries, it was announced yesterday that Tari Eason, who has been out since January 1st, he is now out the rest of the season due to surgery on a benign growth. Not great. Dillon Brooks has kind of turned back into a very expensive pumpkin, as many of us feared. And while Jalen Green continues to have incredibly impressive games, like in our most recent win against the Suns, where he had 34 points on 12 of 23 shooting and 6 of 12 from 3, plus 9 rebounds and 4 assists, consistency remains something Rockets fans are looking to see Jalen Green establish. Alperen Sengun fell off a bit in February as well, but we all know what he's capable of, right? Amen Thompson has looked like the Rockets' most promising young talent behind Sengun and Green. But all in all, things have been frustrating. And here's where I sit with the Rockets right now. This combination of veteran talent with Fred VanVleet running point and Dillon Brooks as the defensive stopper, put together with all the young talent on the team like Jalen Green, Alperen Sengun, Jabari Smith Jr., Cam Whitmore, Amen Thompson, etc., is not going to get us to a level where we are a competitive playoff team. And as such, I really don't understand the strategy. Like, why bring in veterans who are going to take the team from the lottery to the middle of the pack at best and eat up minutes that could have been used to further develop potential cornerstone talent longer term? I don't understand that choice. Strategically, I just don't see the vision. And I've said I'm not confident in Rafael Stone for really like a couple seasons now. And he's not giving me any further reason to believe in him. All right, I think the Rockets, they have their head coach. You got to believe in Ime Udoka, right? Like, consensus top 5 coach in the league level talent in terms of what it seems everybody else thinks about him and the media thinks about him. And I don't really have a reason to disagree with that. I think the Rockets have plenty of talented young players, at least a couple of which surely will be good enough to build around over the next few years. But I don't think the Rockets have the right GM making personnel decisions to ensure that this all goes the way that it needs to. I am out on Rafael Stone until I'm given a reason not to be. And I think if Tillman and the Fertitta boys want this team to turn into real contenders over the next 3 or 4 years, they're going to need to find someone better to be the general manager. And until then, things will continue to be pretty up and down for Rockets fans, waiting to see the team take the next step and get to the next level of this rebuild, because right now we've kind of stalled out. We went from very bottom of the barrel a few seasons in a row, drafted a bunch of young talent, got our coach of the future, and in that regard, everything feels like it's moving in the right direction. But then you bring in Fred VanVleet on a massive contract, right? Albeit not the longest commitment to him. You got Dylan Brooks out there doing whatever the fuck Dylan the villain does. And then it's just a bunch of young dudes sort of trying to find their footing, and sometimes they've got it, sometimes they don't. It seems like there's really, really large expectations for Jalen Green, which have kind of weighed on him, and you can see him starting to break through that, and Ime Udoka coaching him through that, and that's all good. That's great progress. But then there's all these younger pieces you want to develop, like Amen Thompson, like Cam Whitmore. You've got Alperen Şengün, who should clearly be a focal point of the offense, and it kind of comes and goes. That's a lot of different things. It doesn't seem like there's enough focus. Like, all right, these are our 3 stars. We want to develop them. Let's make sure they get enough touches for that to happen. I don't really see like a plan unfolding before me, because I think, as I've said, personnel is sort of all over the place. Like, with the lack of moves, if we were going to do this, right? If we're going to bring in VanVleet, Brooks, and I guess Steven Adams next year, since he's injured this year, you need to make sure that talent you're bringing in, the veteran leadership you're bringing in, is enough to at least get you in the playoff picture so that things are interesting. Otherwise, it's almost like, for what? What's the point? Why not just stay at the fucking bottom of the barrel, let the young guys develop and turn the team into something special while we continue to rack up lottery picks? And I know our situation with the Nets, I know there's still a chance that we end up with 2 lottery picks in the upcoming draft, but it's like the whole plan this last few years, when I'm looking at this team through 60 games now in March of 2024, I'm not sold. There's no one thing for me to look at and be like, yes, all right, we're moving in the right direction. And here's what I mean. When I compare us to like the San Antonio Spurs, do they have a great coach? Greg Popovich. Unquestionable. Do they have a great cornerstone talent to build around for the next decade? Have you watched Victor Wembanyama over the past month or 2? Yes, they do. And when you look at our team by comparison, is there one guy you can say, all right, that's the guy? No, there's like 4 of them. It's been Jalen Green at times, it's been Alperen Şengün at times, and it should have been in a lot more times. You've got Amen Thompson rising to the top of the pack now. It's just like, it's confused. You got VanVleet and Brooks eating up minutes and trying to steer the team in a certain direction. There's no like definitive direction that I can grab hold of and say like, yes, I'm excited about this. So for now, it's just sort of wishy-washy. And a lot of that I put on Rafael Stone's plan and the way that he has built the team. So it's like, I want to be more positive about the Rockets. I want to feel better about the Rockets. I want to feel more motivated to tune into games. And I'm just not. It's just not happening for me. And I don't know what the fuck to do about that, but I'm out on Rafael. I'm out, all right? Because I'm sick of being in the same fucking spot. And I'm sick of every time I come to do the show and I'm like, what do I want to talk about with the Rockets? It's just the same talking points over and over, and I'm bored. I'm bored. This is why I can't wait for baseball season to start, because the Rockets are giving me nothing. They're giving me nothing. I'm enjoying watching, but it's like, 3-9 in February crushed my soul, if I'm being honest. So it feels like Rafael Stone did just enough this offseason to prevent himself from being replaced. And that's it. And that is not good enough. Today's episode is brought to you by thefreezepipe.com. Ripping the bong doesn't have to hurt. Upgrade to a freeze pipe today to experience icy smooth clouds without the throat burn, chest pain, or coughing attacks. Freeze Pipe is an American-owned glass brand that makes a unique line of freezable pipes, bubblers, and bongs that cool smoke by over 300 degrees. The secret is freezable glycerin chambers that come on every piece. You simply pop one of these chambers in the freezer for 1 hour. Then when you light up and smoke passes through, it's instantly chilled for a pain-free and refreshing experience. Glycerin is a non-toxic gel that freezes quicker than water and stays frozen longer. Smoking a freeze pipe is like putting ice cubes in your bong if those ice cubes took steroids and played baseball in the 1990s. If you're still smoking out of a regular-ass piece without glycerin chambers that make every hit as smooth as silk, you are living in the past. The future is now, old man. It's time to get yourself a freeze pipe. They sent us at Bolen Media a big box of their different products. These things are incredible. Absolutely love them. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see one over my left shoulder. You and your lungs deserve one. Say goodbye to harsh smoke and coughing attacks by shopping the smoothest pipes, bubblers, and bongs, and more at thefreezepipe.com and use code BTC for 10% off your entire order. That's thefreezepipe.com, code BTC when you check out for 10% off. Link and code in the description of this episode. Priced affordably with free domestic shipping. Order today and start fighting fire with ice. Astros spring training started a couple of weeks ago. And there are a few things to look for as we await opening day toward the end of this month. I'll do a much more comprehensive breakdown of what to look for this Astros season when we get a little bit closer to opening day. But for now, for one, this will be Joe Espada's first season as manager, obviously. And even though he was already in the clubhouse, that's still a big change in the clubhouse. Big change. One that a lot of people wanted. We'll find out this season if we were all, those of us who wanted this, if we were all right or if we were all wrong. It'll be interesting to see how Espada differs from his predecessors over the first few weeks of the season, rather. With some obvious things coming down the pipeline, like in terms of catching, right? Some outfield questions that will be answered over the next few weeks as well. This team has been a perennial contender since 2017, making the ALCS every single season, as we well know. So can Joe make sure we get another ring for this dynasty? Can we not only maintain the momentum, but take it to another level? These are the questions that will be answered. And last season, on the whole, regardless of coming within a game of another World Series berth, it was a disappointment. That was disappointing. The whole regular season was relatively frustrating and disappointing. There was a lot of injury shit that we don't want to deal with, that, sometimes bad luck, shit happens. But getting to the playoffs, losing to the Rangers the way that we did, just playing, just the whole year, awful at home for some reason. That was all. We're looking to see a turnaround here. That's my point. Regardless of how well we did last season in terms of, end result, one game from the World Series is something that most franchises would take, right? Regardless, we're looking to see things turn around, which is weird. We're in a weird spot. That feels strange to even say, like the Astros need to have a turnaround year. Like we were right the fuck there. I think there's no doubt that if we get to the World Series, we've won a third one already, but we didn't, so we didn't. And, we need to see things turn around as a result. So last season, I want wiped from my fucking memory. There have been a few different years in the course of this dynasty where I felt that way, where I'm like, I can't wait to forget about this shit. 2019 was a perfect example where I was like, my God, how did we blow this? How did we not get another one? That's how I feel about last season too. And I want it to go bye-bye. So I need this year to go really, really well. Will Joe Espada be able to steady the ship? Time will tell. But that's obviously probably the biggest thing in terms of changes that we are looking at this year is how will Joe Espada handle the role? How will that pressure either mold him or get to him? And what are going to be the results, right? One thing is for sure. Astros fans would love to see Jose Altuve and Yordan Alvarez healthy this season. Hopefully for a lot more games than they did last year. Injuries, like I said, were a massive pain in the ass last year. Starting the season without Altuve sucked. plus losing him for a stretch later in the year, and Jordan going down for a long stretch as well. It made it tough for the team to get in a groove. It felt like we never had any real consistency or momentum, and then we just sort of fell ass backwards into a division championship and then into the ALCS again. Like, other teams are going to start catching up. We know that. It's an inevitability. Father Time always wins. Things change. Dynasties don't usually last even as long as ours has, because it's fucking impossible to maintain that level of talent and performance over long stretches in professional sports. It's very, 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 very difficult. And when you've got all the injuries plaguing you like we did last year, it makes it even more difficult. And so health is one of the big things I'm looking forward to this season. I want to see Jose Altuve avoid taking any baseballs off the thumb. I'm knocking on wood, crossing my fingers. I'm doing all the voodoo I possibly can. We need Altuve out there. No doubt about that. You need Alvarez out there. No doubt about that. Some of these other questions, like outfield stuff, Jake Myers, Chas McCormick, we can talk more about in a few weeks when we've seen more. But, health, big thing. Espada, big thing to keep an eye on. Regardless of the circumstances, though, the expectations for this Astros season remain the same. Win the World Series. This team is too talented, has too much chemistry to let the window close without getting a third ring. Making the ALCS every season is fun. I'm not gonna lie about that. But squandering the opportunity to go back-to-back by choking at home against the Rangers is a taste we will not be able to wash out of our mouths until we grab the Commissioner's Trophy once again. And with this probably being the last year we'll see Alex Bregman in an Astros uniform, now is the time. The Astros 2024 season slogan is relentless. And if they fail to get off to a hot start at the beginning of the season, the fan base will be relentlessly negative. That much I do know. And God knows we don't need another season of infighting and bickering and bitching. So here's to hoping. That will do it for today's show, but remember, every episode of Banging the Can is available on all the major podcast platforms, as well as full video on youtube.com/@bangingthecan. For those of you who would prefer to watch instead of just listen, please go subscribe on youtube.com/@bangingthecan. If you are here on YouTube watching right now, hit that subscribe button down below. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you know. youtube.com/@bangingthecan. And even if you're a Spotify or an Apple Podcast person, I would appreciate it if you'd take 5 seconds to go to youtube.com/@bangingthecan and subscribe. On that note, please share the most unapologetic Houston sports show in existence with your friends and family, and support our sponsors as well. Today we had thefreezepipe.com. New sponsor. Show them your love. That's thefreezepipe.com, code BTC for 10% off. Check out my whole media startup, Bolen Media, by going to bolenmedia.com. My comedy show, The Ross Bolen Podcast, available wherever you get your Banging the Can. Follow us on TikTok @Banging the Can, on Twitter and Instagram @Banging the Can. Check out our F1 show, Formula Bone, on youtube.com/@Formula Bone. As I mentioned at the top of the show, I am Ross Bolen. You can follow me on X and Instagram @WRBolen. I'll be back soon. Until next time, H-Town, stay down.